Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
What's up, everybody? You're watching / listening / participating in the Command Zone podcast. I'm one of your hosts today, Jimmy Wong, and I'm joined by...
Your other host, it's Rachel Weeks.
Yay!
Thanks for listening, guys.
Welcome, Rachel, to the podcast of the show,
Thanks.
to the Command Zone. If you all don't know, Rachel is joining us. I'm very excited. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I think I'm actually done. I can't review cards anymore. My brain has emptied out fully, and we need some fresh blood to help us out.
Don't worry, mine is full of magic cards.
Yeah,
and
mine
I
is
can't
too.
remember anything else. Just magic cards in there.
What's your birthday? I don't know, but let me tell you about this 2-4
Commander Sphere.
Yeah.
Is it Felwar Stone? Sorry.
Yeah, that could be a whole game show. Which 2 mana rock is it?
Is my birthday. Yeah.
Is it?
No.
Oh.
What?
2/2?
No.
I was like, Felwar Stone. 2 mana for 2? Okay, whatever. We're going to talk about Jumpstart 2022. That's right, there's a Jumpstart set that's also coming out, and it's really exciting because there actually are really interesting commanders to talk about. Before we get into it, though, today, if you want to pick up any of these commanders or the product itself, Jumpstart, if you've ever played it, is a wonderful way to teach people how to play Magic, and it's fast and it's easy, and it has all the thrills of opening packs and playing at the same time. You can purchase it at cardkingdom.com/command. That's our affiliate link. We love Card Kingdom, and they have some of the biggest inventory as far as it goes in just the Magic sphere. You need a card, there's a great chance they're going to have it. They're going to have it in different qualities as well as foil versions, and of course all of different frames and retro frames, showcases, all that good stuff. You can find it at cardkingdom.com/command, and by using that affiliate link, you're going to buy Magic cards anyway. You're also supporting the show. You're probably going to want to pick up some of these Jumpstart 2022 commanders. There are a couple that I'm thinking about building myself. So to do that, just load up a cart. You can put the whole deck in at once at Card Kingdom and just have it all shipped to you in a single package, save on some packaging, and get it where you need it, in your hands, in your house.
Pay shipping once.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
That's a big deal. And of course, once you get those cards, you might want to protect them. You can put them into a sleeve, an ULTRAPRO sleeve, in fact. And if you go to ultrapro.com/command, you can also shop from their online distributor. They've got tons of products. Literally, every time I get an email from them promotionally, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is how much off? They'll have old binders, deck boxes, sleeves, you name it. A great way to just save on your holiday spending and New Year spending as well, especially because you're trying to get a jump start on building some new commanders. Do it with ultrapro.com/command. Okay, last way to support the show is directly at patreon.com/command. We have a Discord. Rachel just joined it. Actually, did you join it? I think I need to invite you.
I think you need to invite me still.
Rachel's not quite there yet, but maybe
I'm coming.
maybe by the time you're there, she will also be there as well. We answer your questions. You can talk to us, interact with our huge community, and there's also tons of other perks from Patreon. We have exclusive content and all that good stuff, and we shout out one lucky patron every episode, and that patron today is Alvaro Gutierrez.
Yeah, you rock.
You rock. Sorry for butchering your name if it is Alvaro or Alvaro. Let us know in the comments, I guess. All right, let's just jump right into it. Jumpstart 2022, 14 new legendary creatures, so we have our plate full ahead of us because we're not actually going to talk about all of them.
Yeah, we're not going to get to all 14 commanders this time. Sorry, guys. We're going to skip over a couple of commanders that we've seen before, some archetypes we're used to, and colors that we're used to. Yeah. And we skipped over the tribal commanders. A lot of those are going to be going to Scryfall, finding the tribe you're looking for, and the ones that speak to you out of that. So we tried to pick some commanders that are a little bit tougher to evaluate and have some fresh faces in there. There's some weird, cool stuff happening. And it starts with this very first commander. Now, it sounds like something that you've heard before, but I promise you it is not. The first commander we're going to talk about today is Agris Kos, Eternal Soldier. For 3 and a white, it is a legendary creature spirit soldier. He's a 3/4 with vigilance. It says, whenever Agris Kos, Eternal Soldier, becomes the target of an ability that targets only it, you may pay 1 and hybrid Boros. If you do, copy that ability for each other creature you control that ability could target. Each copy targets a different one of those creatures.
Okay. A lot of text there. Let's make sure that we remember the specific text that is the most important. It says, whenever this commander becomes the target of an ability that targets only it. So 2 things there. It has to be an ability. Can't be like a spell.
Yep.
Or, we've seen this actually happen a lot with similar commanders and colors in the past.
Reminds you of Zada, which is whenever a spell targets it. But this is a little different. It's also worth noting this is a Boros commander. It's both red and white. It has hybrid red-white in the copy text.
It reminds me a lot of actually Shu Yun, which has a similar thing. It's like when you cast something, you do something, you pay 1 and then a hybrid mana of other. So it's actually interesting because this does the same thing, but it's only targeted abilities.
It's a little similar to Ivy, which is a commander that came out fairly recently. The main difference with Agris costs between Agris and Ivy is Ivy makes copies of permanents when she becomes the target of it. Agris does not. So this is not that you can't target Agris with an aura and make a bunch of copies of auras.
Yep. You're just basically copying that ability, whatever the ability.
So you're copying the enchant ability, not the enchantment itself.
So when you broke this down, I thought this was really interesting. You said you discovered 2 ways to build the deck, which means that they don't work as well together if you try to combine them, right?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that you could do that Boros is very good at, but they fight a little bit against each other. So you really need to pick one kind of build or the other. I'm sure there's another cool build that I didn't think of, but the first one is blinking.
You do it every day.
Yeah.
If you don't,
your eyes will fall out.
Yeah, or your Wednesday Addams, the new Wednesday Addams. She doesn't blink at all in the show, apparently.
What?
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pay attention to it if you're watching that show. No blinks happening. But here, we do want to blink. So.
Yeah, we want to blink as many times as possible. A very cool interaction with Agris is Sword of Hearth and Home.
Okay.
So Sword of Hearth and Home is...
I'll read it.
Yeah, please.
It's a 3-mana equipment with a 2-mana equip cost. It gets +2/+2 protection, green and white. And then whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage, you exile up to 1 target creature you own, and then you search your library for a basic land card, put both of them back on the battlefield under your control, and then shuffle. So that is a targeted ability that would only target a single thing. In this case, you would target Agris.
Yep. If you target Agris and then copy it, you blink every creature you control, and you search for a land for each one you blink.
Wow.
Because those abilities are tied, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. Now, notably, this is, again, an ability, not a spell. So we have to have that be the case for all the other cards that we're talking about here. Another one is Teleportation Circle, which does a very similar thing. It's at your end step. It's an enchantment. You exile up to 1 target artifact or creature, and then you blink it back.
Yeah, another one I thought was cute, and I think there's going to be a lot of crossover between these two decks, is Duke Older Ravenguard. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and myriad until end of turn.
Wow.
So yeah, if you copy the Duke Older ability, you can give your whole board myriad, including your commander who's legendary, so it doesn't work that well. But you get a lot of ETBs.
Duke as well, yeah. You swing out, you just create a copy for each opponent, for each of your creatures.
It's pretty sweet.
That is pretty wild. Good job, Duke. I haven't seen... Actually, I think this deck is way better. It's 4 mana instead of 6 to play the Duke, and then the Duke's definitely going inside.
Yeah, I think that's a cool one to copy.
You also have Delina Wild Mage, who was very successful in the Game Nights episode of ours. When Delina attacks, you choose a creature you control, and then you roll a dice. On 1 to 14 for D20, you create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature. Now, it'd be legendary because your commander's legendary, but you would copy that ability for every creature you own.
And Delina gets around legendary.
Oh, that's right, actually.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm so sorry. Because she says, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and then it has to exile this creature at end of combat.
So you could make a copy of Agris, you can make a copy of Delina, and everything else you have. And
wow.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, that is actually wild.
A lot of these effects are going to reuse your ETBs, which go really well with your blink effects. Like Jaxus is very similar.
Oh, yes.
Lets you make a token copy of all of your creatures, except for now they have Blitz, so you draw cards when they die.
Wow.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah, including tokens and all that stuff. And red-white, I feel like you could very much go wide, or just have lots of little guys and gals tinkering around and hitting people. Now, when you are... Oh, yeah, this is actually a new one. Touch the Spirit Realm. It's from Kamigawa. It's
not that new.
Yeah, well, it feels new.
I know.
I feel like I was just drafting that yesterday.
Oh.
You could do like the little boom, boom, boom sound to when I'm drafting it yesterday, yeah. It's a 2 and a white enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until it leaves the battlefield. You can also channel it for 1 in the white specifically, discard it, and then you get to flicker something at instant speed.
Yeah, so channel is an ability, so you could target Agris and you could blink your entire board by cycling your Touch the Spirit Realm. Pretty cool.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to cast it and then just normally and then have it target your commander, because then you might accidentally accidentally exile your whole board.
Oh yeah. Don't copy the ETB ability. That's not the one.
Yeah.
Copy the channel ability.
Yep.
So this is a Boros Blink deck, so you're going to want a lot of the creatures that show up in this kind of deck, right? Mm-hmm. Charming Prince is a great one because it is both a blink ability and a creature to be blinked.
Very good. Restoration Angel, very similar thing. And then if you are now blinking other things, you're going to want to get a lot of, you can basically start reusing ETBs. So Skyclave Apparition is one that we put down. Yep. It's insane. It's a creature that when it enters the battlefield, it exiles another creature with CMC 4 or less. And then when it leaves the battlefield, the creature doesn't come back, as you normally would see with cards like Fiend Hunter. The owner only gets an XX, which was the mana cost of the token. Or if you manage to exile multiple things under it, the combined mana cost.
Yeah.
So pretty much it permanently gets rid of stuff, and maybe someday it replaces itself if you flicker Skyclave Apparition again. But with this down, you're basically gunning down the board and leaving them with XXs.
Yeah, very strong blink target. Another one that I love to blink in this deck is Circuit Mender, because you get an ETB trigger and an LTB. When it enters, you gain 2 life, and when it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card.
I'm in for that in mono white, or Boros, I guess.
Yeah, seems pretty good. If you can blink this 2 or 3 times, you can get a lot of cards out of it.
Yep. I like this a lot. Bruce Tarl, Boorish Hoarder. If Josh was here, he would yell something in his accent, his Irish accent.
Boorish.
2 a red and a white, 3/3. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, target creature you control gains double strike and lifelink until end of turn. Yikes.
He's a great blink target, and you can target Agris with his ETB ability and copy it for your whole board. Now everything is double strike and lifelink.
Yeah, you could actually stack it. If you have Duke Older Raven Guard out, you can stack it so you make all the Myriad tokens, and then you get to give everything double strike and lifelink. You will not be losing that game, I don't think.
Pretty cool.
Another great card that you have really shown me the ways about, Rachel, is Angel of the Ruins. This is a big old 7 mana 5/7 that you can plain cycle away, but when it enters the battlefield, you exile up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments.
Card's great.
Card's nuts.
Very strong. They do not come back. They're gone.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a format all-star, especially for mono white now, because there's
really
ways.
Strong.
Yeah, you can get into the graveyard and get a card for it, and reanimating it seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the blink way.
That's the blink version. You can fill in the cracks with cards that you like. There's another version of this deck that I think is pretty sweet and it's worth talking about, and that is using +1 counter abilities.
Okay, so when you say that, you mean abilities that give +1/+1 counters that are by targeting a creature.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of these. My favorite one, by far, is Thundering Raiju, which is another card from Kamigawa.
Yeah, that set that came out so long ago.
Yeah, just yesterday. For 2, a red and a red, this is a creature spirit with 3/3 with haste. When it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then Thundering Raiju deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of modified creatures you control other than Thundering Raiju.
Ooh.
So these are attached abilities. So if you target Agris with this,
right,
you put a +1 counter on Agris, and then you copy it, you deal the damage, and then you copy it. And then for every creature you control, you put a +1 counter on them, and then deal the damage again.
Oh, it's connected, but it's every time it's a single instance of you're going to put a +1/+1 counter, then you're going to look for the number of modified creatures and then do it.
Mm-hmm. So if you have 4 creatures, you do this 4 times. It's counter damage, counter damage, counter
Does it go 1 creature, 2 creatures, 3 creatures, 4 creatures?
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, if you don't have any counters,
but here's the thing, they all stack up at the same time, so by the time the last one resolves, it sees everything. So so all the modified creatures are already modified. Wow.
Seems pretty cool in this deck. I like it a lot.
Yeah, that's nuts. I like Avenging Hunt Bonder. This is a card that puts a counter, but it's a double strike counter. It's a creature. When it attacks, you put a double strike counter on another target attacking creature. This seems like almost like a Craterhoof type effect in this deck, where it's like, get this down, swing with it, maybe give it haste because you're in red, and then blam, your whole team's going to get that. Similarly to good old Duke Older Raven Guard. Seems like one of those. This is now you're clearly on the way to winning the game.
Yeah, this is a big, it's worth noting that you have to be attacking with the creatures that you target.
Right.
So Agris, needs to be attacking in order for you to target him, and then it's only attacking creatures that'll get the double strike trigger.
A little dangerous and scary, but you can probably make it happen.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Splendor Mare is similar. It says when you cycle Splendor Mare, put a lifelink counter on target creature you control. This is an ability, which means you can put a lifelink counter on everybody you've got in the deck.
Very nice.
On the board.
Siege Veteran, if you played Brothers War Limited, you may have lost to this card. It's just a creature that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, put the +1/+1 +1 counter on target creature you control. Actually, really similar to the other. I forget what those Siege Citadel, I believe, was the Khans of Tarkir, just nutty. Put 2 +1/+1 counters. So
exactly. There's a lot of cards that do this, and your commander is a soldier, I believe, right?
Oh.
So is there some synergy? Did I do it? It
Spirit
is
Soldier.
a spirit soldier. So you get a little bit of soldier synergy with
That's right. Whenever a non-token soldier dies, you make a 1/1 token, which is, again, very good in this deck. You want to have lots of small little guys running around.
One of my favorite cards that you could put in this version of the deck and the counter version is Resourceful Defense. This is from Streets of New Capenna Commander.
Oh, yeah, that set that came out so long ago.
So long ago.
This joke will never get old.
For 2 and a white, this is an enchantment. It says, whenever a permanent you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on target permanent you control.
Whoa.
So that's an ability that you can copy with Agris. You can point this trigger at Agris and then copy it for each creature you control, and then you put all of the counters that are leaving the battlefield onto every creature you still have on the battlefield.
So you can take 1 +1/+1 counter and just boom, add it to the whole team like that.
Yeah, or if you have lifelink counters don't stack very well, but if you have like a stack of counters, you could put 3 or 4 or even more counters on each creature, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, Resourceful Defense also says 4 and white, move any number of counters from target permanent you control to another target permanent you control. So that will
copy
also
that
trigger.
as well.
Yeah, that's right, because it targets and it's on an ability.
Pretty sweet.
Heliod Sun Crown is pretty simple. Whenever you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or enchantment, and then you can give a creature lifelink for 1 in the white, also known as your whole team. And then you're going to get all those separate instances of life gain if they all hit.
Pretty cool.
Very cool.
So now there's creatures that go in this deck, like the blank deck. There's creatures that aren't necessarily target abilities, but really do benefit from it. Krenko Tin Street Kingpin is one of my favorite Boros counters cards.
Yep.
When he attacks, put a +1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krenko's power onto the battlefield. So now you have a huge board that you can multiply your counter abilities many times.
Yeah, and then you got Felidar Retreat, incredible enchantment with landfall. You make a 2/2 white cat beast creature token every time a land enters the battlefield under your control, or you could put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So it kind of does the +1/+1 counter thing with your commander, but not targeted. But you'll still get one on all your creatures, so you can kind of like start the train going from there.
Yeah, I think if you make a Boros +1 counter deck, you do not leave Felidar Retreat out.
No.
A cute one that I liked was Bosri's Lieutenant. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1 counter on target creature you control. There's your targeted ability. And then when Bosri's Lieutenant or another creature you control dies, if it had a counter on it, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance. So it's a little bit of board protection as well. You got to appreciate it.
If you're playing this deck, you may need to win someday by playing Hangerback Walker, which is great. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. You cast it for XX. And then when it dies, you put a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token for each 1/1 counter on Hangerback Walker. And this thing will obviously grow a lot in this deck. And when it goes away, you're going to get more creatures to, again, slap a bunch of counters on, all that good stuff.
Board protection is going to be really important in this deck because it just screams kill Agris, right? It's definitely like, okay, you need Agris for your deck to do what it's going to do. I'm going to try to kill him.
It's pretty obvious when it's about to happen too, because you'll build a board and then cast your commander and then be like, okay, here we go. If they can do something about it, they're really going to try. So there are some cool ways that you can protect your board and protect your commander. Together Forever is really fun, especially in this counters build. It's an enchantment for white. When it enters the battlefield, support 2. Just put a +1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, which your commander will see.
If you target that, you can copy your whole board, and then now you've got counters on everybody. It also says choose target choose target creature with a counter on it. When that creature dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand.
Ooh.
So you can protect your board that way.
Yep, you're in mono white. No, sorry, you're in white red. So you also have Mother of Runes, which is similar. You tap it, give a creature protection from the color of your choice until the end of the turn, similar to Giver of Runes. I think you probably would play both in a deck like this.
Yeah, giving your whole board protection from a color is so strong in this deck.
It'll prevent against board wipes. It'll stop against, a lot of different things.
Targeted removal. It also could make them unblockable against some players.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Very good. Standard Bearer, 1 in the white creature. If an opponent plays a spell or ability that would target a flag bearer in play, that player chooses then that player chooses at least one flag bearer as a target. So this basically says, I'm at the front. I'm waving the flag around. You send the lightning bolt or something another direction. It's like, wait, you could target me, so it has to go at me.
Yeah, so if they have a Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares, they have to get through your flag bearer before they get to Agris, which I think is pretty cool. It's also just another good body on the battlefield for you to put counters on.
Yep, and then if you are playing with these types of cards, Mother of Runes, Standard Bearer, Savin's Reclamation is great at bringing all these little dorks back, and you're going to get to cast that twice. And basically holding up, I found even just one layer of protection is enough to stop things from killing your commander or whatever you're trying to protect. Just one layer. Typically it's one counter spell, but in this deck's case, it's protection, misdirection, or you're sort of like, you're sacrificing a doggy to make your team indestructible, all that good stuff.
Or just recursion. Like, you're like,
recursion.
my board's just coming back.
Yeah, now you are in white-red, and I think a lot of ways that white-red decks win is through a light amount of stacks. I'm not being a huge proponent of it, but it is very effective, I think, in decks like this, because you're going to have cards like Teleportation Circle out. You're not going to be really using your mana, you'll have more efficient ways of using your mana once you have like your Sword of Hearth and Home and your flickering stuff. You don't actually need to tap that much mana. So Thorn of Amethyst, which makes non-creature spells cost one more to play. You have a ton of creatures, you're probably going to not be as affected. And then cards like Rule of Law might just shut down the entire table, because all you need to do is hit them once and then have a trigger off of your sword, or you have a teleportation circle thing go, or you have a Felidar Retreat thing happen. You don't care about casting spells, but your board is growing and getting bigger and scarier, and everyone else goes, crap, I can't keep up. And then you actually manage to win as a Boros deck.
And you can hold up all of your mana to copy your abilities with your commander. It's pretty
Bingo.
sweet. Bam.
That's what you're saving your mana for. Very cool. Agris costs Eternal Soldier. I kept thinking it was mono white, but it's actually Boros.
Actually Boros.
Boros. Dun, 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 dun.
Speaking of red,
the best color in the world. And speaking of the best, I don't know, family member, it's Auntie Blight. Bad influence. Uh-oh, maybe not the best. So this is 2 in red for a 2/2 Devil Advisor. Great art. Just a little auntie
really
with some
cute.
glasses.
I
next,
love it so much.
Whispering some secrets. It's got flying, and whenever a source you control deals damage to you, so whenever a source you control deals damage to you, put that many +1/+1 counters on Auntie Blight Bad Influence. And then you can pay 1 in red and tap Auntie Blight and remove X +1/+1 counters from Auntie, and it'll deal X damage to any target.
pretty sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. So you're basically wanting to hit yourself, the stop hitting yourself deck. Every time you do that, it's actually going to be putting that many +1/+1 counters on yourself, on Auntie Blight instead. And at any time, tap 2, tap her, and you can do X damage to any target. And by the way, you don't need to remove all of the counters. You could just tap her and remove 1, 2, 3, whatever, what have you.
It's pretty sweet. I mean, this is a new take on a mono red slug deck, which we've seen before with stuff like Torbran. But it rebalances things a little bit because
you have to hurt yourself.
Well, you have to hurt yourself, which often happens in these group slug decks. But now you also have this huge flyer that keeps getting bigger and can deal more damage.
Is a 2/2 flyer.
She flies. So let's hit ourselves. Let's see what happens. There's some cool ways to do this. There's some classics like Price of Progress and Pyrohemia. One of my favorites that has come out in the last couple years is Wheel of Misfortune.
Yeah, don't pretend like I know how to play this card.
You could do it. It's
All
2
right.
in a red for basically a Wheel of Fortune.
It's basically Wheel of Fortune. Everyone around the table chooses a number. I accidentally had Wheel of Fortune Misfortune deal 10 damage to me in the last game nights. But that would, if I had Auntie Blight out, that would have put 10 +1/+1 counters on Auntie. And
pretty cool. And you draw 7 fresh new cards. I think it's cool in this deck.
Yeah, it's very, very cool in this deck, specifically because it's not loss of life. You have to cause damage to yourself, and it has to be a source you control. Which is why, some people might be thinking, hey, I remember a card that loves to get rid of a lot of life around the table, and that's Heartless Hidetsugu, which is very good in like Neheb decks and all that. It deals half damage to each player equal to half their life total rounded down, and you have to tap it to do it.
Just tap it, 20 counters on Auntie. Bam. Commander damage in the sky.
Instant death, and then tap, remove 20 counters, kill someone else instead if you can't get through.
Pretty cool.
Very
cool.
Very cool.
This is a card I have actually never seen before.
Ever?
I don't think I've ever seen this. It's Volcano Hellion. 2 red for a Hellion. It is a 6/5. It has Echo X, where X is your life total.
Whoa.
When it comes into play, it deals an amount of damage of your choice to you and target creature. This damage can't be prevented.
Okay, so that's the important part here.
Yeah, so it's a 4-mana 6/5 that when it enters, you pick a number, and it deals that much to you and that much to a creature on the board.
Wow. So it's almost guaranteed to kill something.
Yeah, and you deal 6 damage to yourself, and you can get some counters on Auntie Blight for free. It's only 4 mana for a 6/5.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
And then there's an echo cost, which you probably won't play, but you know.
Echo cost of 20. Other ways to keep hitting yourself would be cards like Ancient Tomb. Tap it, deals 2 damage to yourself.
Classic.
City of Brass, when it becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to you. So these, again, both sources you control that are dealing damage to you. So you're going to get those +1/+1 counters. And then there's just lots more cards in the Price of Progress world where it just deals damage to everyone simultaneously, which is the group slugging of it. Acidic Soil is a sorcery that deals 1 damage to each player for each land they control. So this could just be something that just adds 10 counters at once. Citadel of Pain, at the end of each player's turn, Citadel of Pain deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of untapped lands they control. I like this a lot because you can control how many counters you want to go onto the Auntie. Let's say someone's at 15 life, you don't actually need that many counters. You can be like, all right, I'm just going to leave these lands untapped or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. It
also forces everyone to like kind of...
to tap their lands a little bit.
Yeah,
Maybe they don't have the removal for your
Because if they don't
commander.
tap their lands, then it's a...
They start taking some damage.
And they're not doing anything anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Flame Rift, classic in the Heb deck. 1 in a red deals 4 damage to each player. So that's just 2 mana for 4 counters right then and there. And then you mentioned Pyrohemia earlier. I also like Roiling Vortex.
Yeah.
Because you can pay red and your opponents can't gain life this turn, which may be a way that someone can sort of dig their way out of the Auntie hole.
For sure. It's also whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to this player.
Yeah, that's pretty...
That is actually a very strong effect in narrow cases. So I love that this card has multiple upsides in this deck, and that's just gravy on top.
Oh, another cool thing about Pyrohemia, because it does do damage to each creature, you may be thinking, oh no, I can accidentally kill my Auntie. Well, actually no, because every time you do a damage, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And it just keeps going up.
She gets a little stronger.
Yeah, but if you remove those counters that turn, then she will die. But I think a way you win this game is just by building up a ton of counters and seeing 2 players at 25 and 20 or whatever, and then you kill one of them by combat damaging them out, deal some damage to yourself, and then you cast like Final Fortune or Warrior's Oath, and then take that extra turn and then kill them before that turn's over.
Yeah, I love those cards in here because it's going to be a fast deck and people are going to be trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So you really do need to race.
Yeah. And finally, a reason to play Mana Crypt.
Oh, thank God.
Couldn't think of any others.
Mana Crypt's good.
Deals damage to you. Yeah, finally. Took us long enough.
The other thing I wanted to think about in this deck is to see if there's any like red +1/+1 counter synergy, because historically there really hasn't been a whole lot of it. But I do think that the Ozolith makes +1 counters in this deck kind of an interesting upside. Ozolith is pretty easy to find in red and also with Urza Saga and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's right.
And then if your Auntie dies, you get your counters and get to reuse them quicker. There's also some cool cards in red that use +1 counters. Runaway Steamkin is a storm card usually, but
it's really good in this deck if you can move some counters around.
Exactly. If you can start manipulating where counters go, you can use Runaway Steamkin to make a lot of mana. It says whenever you cast a red spell, if Runaway Steamkin has fewer than 3 +1 counters on it, put a +1 counter on Runaway Steamkin, remove 3 +1 counters from Runaway Steamkin, add red, red, red.
Yeah, so you'll be using that mana, casting a spell, adding more on there. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, if you could do there's some like cute synergies if you can use the Ozolith. Another one I really liked was Agitator Ant.
Oh yeah, this card's really interesting.
At the beginning of your end step, each player may put 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature they control. Goad each creature that had counters put on it this way. So you can just put 2 +1 counters on your Auntie without even taking the damage for it.
Yeah, I thought about putting this in my Marchesa deck, and if your opponents do it, those creatures have to attack each other.
Yeah, we love a goad in red.
Oh, and then Thundering Raiju makes another appearance.
He's back. You can build up some counters and start throwing some damage around with the Raiju.
I do like that. And then Kami of Celebration is interesting. This is 4 in a red. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, you exile the top card of your library. You can play that card this turn, so that's going to be your commander most of the times. And then whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So just another way to build up counters slowly.
Yeah, I also think this card has some very strong card advantage in the right deck. It might even go in the Agris cost +1 counter build as well.
Oh, interesting. Auntie Blight, bad influence, that one.
she sure is. But let's help her out a little bit.
Right, so she kind of is a pinger, right? You can tap her to deal damage to a target.
Yeah, so I think it's probably worth it to have a little bit of Death Touch in your deck. But I think the main thing you want to give your Auntie is lifelink.
Definitely.
And there are weirdly ways to do this in red. Witch's Clinic is a great option. It's a land that says 2-tap, target creature gains lifelink until end of turn. Shadow Spear is a great equipment to give her trample and lifelink. And Basilisk Collar is the best of both worlds. Gives her both Death Touch and lifelink.
And you can also play Batterskull. Does a very similar thing. So now that you're removing 20 counters, you're dealing 20, gaining 20. People can't even crack back and kill you on the spot because you're doing, again, damage to yourself.
Yeah, you really do need some lifelink in this deck to make sure you don't accidentally kill yourself. And something I really like about Batterskull, in addition, is it gives her vigilance, which means you can attack and activate her on the same turn. Attack, gain some life, and then you leave her up as a blocker, and then shoot somebody on end step.
Yeah, end step. You don't have to do it instantly.
This card is new, and I think is actually kind of cute in this deck. It's Scavenged Brawler. It's a 6-mana artifact creature construct. It has flying, vigilance, trample, and lifelink. So it's a big stack of keywords. But it says 5 exile Scavenging Brawler from your graveyard. Choose target creature. Put 4 +1/+1 counters on it. A flying counter, a vigilance counter, a trample counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. Activate only as a sorcery.
Wow. Could you do this with the Agris Cull deck?
Yeah, you absolutely could. You for sure could put that on every single creature you have.
Why?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I think this card's really cool and has a lot of really important keywords for this deck.
Yeah, you're playing mono red too, so you should be playing all of the cards that discard and allow you to draw cards. The last category we have here is just protecting the Auntie. Now, again, there are ways for Auntie to die, and that would suck, especially if you're playing cards like Rolling Earthquake, when Auntie is just a 2/2, and you want to do Rolling Earthquake for 20 or whatever. I think Auntie would die before the counters get put on. Because it happens to each, because Rolling Earthquake says it deals X damage to each creature and player, or each creature without horsemanship. So these types of effects, there are actually a lot of them where it's like each creature without flying does damage or whatever. So I thought there were 2 ways around this. You could either give Auntie indestructible, so Dark Steel Plate, Mage Bane Armor, Hammer of Nazan, or you could just give Auntie flying again. Oh wait, Auntie does have flying.
Auntie does.
Don't need to give flying again. So actually. In fact, this category doesn't even need to exist. You can just give her indestructible and still use a lot of the X damage to everything on the board cards. But yeah, Auntie is very good because cards like Flame Break, red deals 3 damage to each creature without flying and each player. So you're going to get 3 damage, get those counters, and also it's going to kill a bunch of other creatures on the board.
Yeah.
Earthquake, similar stuff.
Earthquake is a great option in this deck. I love that.
Yeah.
The next commander is a Bant Snowman. He's a Yeti.
It's a Yeti.
It's a Yeti.
It's a cooler.
It's Isu the Abominable. For 3 blue, this is a legendary snow creature, Yeti. It is a 5/5. It says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play snow lands and cast snow spells from the top of your library. And whenever a snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay green, white, or blue. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Isu the Abominable.
Okay, a lot of text here, so let's go over it again. You can look at the top card of the library at any time. Plenty of effects that do this. Vizier of the Menagerie, all those sorts of things. Mystic Forge. But specifically, because this is a snow deck, you can play snow lands and cast snow spells from the top of your library. And then the last line of text, whenever a snow permanent enters the battlefield, you can pay a mana and get a +1/+1 counter on Isu. Doesn't seem that cool.
It doesn't seem super worth it. He doesn't have evasion. He doesn't have trample.
Yeah.
It's like, I think if you have the extra mana, maybe you use it.
Sure.
But
right. Because you can play a land, get a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, but I don't see it being a huge build around unless you're really, really dedicated to doing a commander damage thing with Isu.
This to me just says, hey, you wanted a snow commander in 3 colors. Here you go.
Here it is.
Yeah, the first 2 abilities are already really good. The last one is just a little gravy on top.
Yeah, so I think you really want to focus on the playing cards off the top of your library in this deck. I think that's the main upside. So of course you're going to run Snowlands, Snow Basics. There's 2 sets of Snow Duels in green, white, and blue. There's the recent one from Kaldheim, and then there's 2 from Cold Snap.
Boreal Shelf.
Yeah. There's two from that set too.
Oh, right, because you have green.
There's Boreal Shelf, and I think there's a green white one. I'm not sure what the other one is. Dark Depths is a snow land. It's finally relevant.
Hey, look at that. That's actually interesting.
Who knows?
You can play Dark Depths from the top of your library now.
That's pretty cool. So you probably throw a Thespian Stage in there as well.
Yep. Kaldheim just did have a lot of extra snow permanents as well, so that's a great set to start off from if you're just trying to look for recent cards.
Yeah, there's a lot of snow cards that we play already that are just good cards. Like Orin Frostfang is a great card, and it's a snow card. So you definitely put it in this deck.
Very good. Gives your creatures attacking death touch, and then whenever a creature deals combat damage, you get to draw a card.
Yeah.
Boreal Druid is the Llanowar elves for snow creatures, and he just taps for 1. Cold Steel Heart as well. It fits very thematically onto the whole thing because it is a snow artifact.
Yeah, and Icefang Coatl is a cool little surprise. It's green and a blue for a snake with flash. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. It has death touch as long as you control at least 3 other snow permanents, which you absolutely will do.
Because you have to have 2, hopefully, in their lands.
Yeah, Icefang Coatl is great in a snow deck. So I think you definitely run those.
Yep. On Thin Ice, great snow removal, white snow enchantment, and then enchants a snow land, and then just exiles a creature an opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield. So it sort of tucks them under a land.
And then there's a lot of like snow support, like generic snow stuff. Merit Lage's Slumber is a very strong card. It's 1 and a blue for a legendary snow enchantment. Whenever it or another snow permanent enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. The beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more snore permanents. 10 or more snore permanents, sacrifice this if you
Merit Lage's Slumber.
And he's not sleeping anymore. She's not sleeping anymore.
Wow.
Excuse me.
That was so cool. We just did that.
We did that. Merit Lage is snoring.
And if you have 10 or more, then you get rid of Merit Lage's Slumber, and then you make Merit Lage, which is a 20/20 avatar creature token with flying and indestructible.
So that card seems great in here. That definitely seems like it's part of the plan.
Yep, totally. There's Snow Mill, Iceberg Cancrix. Whenever another snow permanent enters the battlefield, you can have target player put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard, or it could be you.
I like this one because it can clear the top of your library. If you've got like a non-snow thing up there and you're like, I really need to see more cards, you can use it to sort of mill your opponents. It's not really the plan, or just clear the top of your library so you can keep casting stuff.
Icebreaker Kraken. This is a backbreaker. It's 10 blue, but it costs 1 less to cast for each snow land you control. And then when it enters the battlefield, artifacts and creatures target opponent controls don't untap during that player's next untap step. And you can also return 3 snow lands and return the Kraken to its owner's hand.
Pretty sweet.
So endgame, this could just cost blue.
Yeah.
You're in green, you're going to be able to get a bunch of lands out, and you're going to want to play a lot of lands, which we'll talk about in a second here.
Avalanche Caller was backbreaking in Limited. You don't see a lot of it in Commander, but I think it's kind of interesting in this deck. It's 1 and a blue for a snow creature human wizard. He's got an activated ability that says target snow land you control becomes a 4/4 elemental creature with hexproof and haste until end of turn. It's still a land.
Oh.
So it makes 4/4s. It feels like this deck is going to have a little bit of trouble with defense or maybe even offense. It seems like it's very good at dirtling. And I think Avalanche Caller is a very easy thing for people to forget about and a great way for you to use your lands to either protect or attack.
Right. Later on, you're like, hey, check it out. I just now have 5 4/4s that are crashing in on you.
They have haste, and you forgot about them.
Yeah, there's also Sunstone, which is a card I've never seen before. It's a 3-mana artifact. You can pay 2 to sacrifice a snow-covered land, and then all creatures deal no combat damage this turn.
Yeah.
So it's a fog. It's like a fog frog.
It's a snow frog frog.
Snow fog frog. Foggy.
This card is great. If you're running Snowlands, it's Glacial Revelation. 2 and a green. Reveal the top cards of your library.
6
top
cards.
6. Yeah, I knew I was missing a word.
Reveal your entire library.
Reveal your library. Reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put any number of snow permanent cards from among them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard.
In the right deck, this is like 3-mana draw, 4, 5, or 6.
Right? That's a lot. And I think you're going to have a high density of snow permanents, so this is a very good rate. And you can also, in a pinch, just clear the top of your library.
Yeah, it'll be better than the Harmonize, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, because you're able to play snow lands off the top of your library, you're in green. Why not play a bunch of lands? So Azusa Lost But Seeking lets you put 2 extra lands out per turn. AC Tyrant of Gyre Strait lets you put 1 out, and then you get a draw card. So again, you're clearing the top of your library. Dryad of the Elysian Grove. All are ways to just play more lands. And I think in this deck, you're just going to want to literally just jam up the board with as many lands as possible, and then you can just sit there with your Sunstone or Avalanche Caller, and then make, if you want to, then you can make your Isu, a 20/20 over time.
I really like this deck as just a Bant Lands commander, and that's sort of incidentally snow. We haven't really seen a dedicated Bant Lands commander, and I think it's worth thinking about because there are so many great white lands cards. We talked about it already, but Felidar Retreat is wonderful.
Winter Wonderlands is the rope. Very nice. It's a good one.
Amiria Shepherd is one of my favorite landfall payoffs. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If that land is a plains, you may return that non-land permanent to the battlefield instead.
Wow.
Great recursion, even reanimation. I think it's
You
really
can get your Felidar retreat back if someone blows it up.
Absolutely.
You also have Sun Titan!
The one, the only.
Yeah, so again, you're going to maybe be using fetch lands to bring out more things. Sun Titan can get those back because it's bringing back a permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Just a lot of value with Sun Titan, especially in a deck like this.
Yeah, I mean, white just offers a lot to lands decks. Karametra, God of Harvest, says whenever you cast a creature spell, you search your library for a forest or plains card, put it into the battlefield tapped.
Yeah.
That's a ton of lands.
Yeah, that with Amiria Shepherd is just nuts.
Even Deep Gnome Terramancer, I think, is a really strong include in a lands deck. It says whenever one or more lands enters the battlefield under your opponent's control without being played, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Do this only once each turn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that gets you steady landfall triggers, and I think you want a high land count so you can really move through your deck.
Yeah,
So
because you're always playing them off the top of your library as well. Yeah, land tax is really good for just clearing out your library of lands. You'll always be able to hit your land drops. And then I think it just comes down to this next topic. How do you say this?
The library.
That's right. You don't want to have something that's not a snow permanent on the top of your library because then you can't cast it or play it. Come on, kid. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why don't you use your brain and storm around a little bit? Maybe reorganize the top of your library, put that juicy spell on top or land, and then just get all that extra value.
Yeah, it helps you draw some extra cards. I mean, Brainstorm is an easy include. Sensei's Divining Top often goes in decks like this.
Sylvan Library obviously does the same thing. Where you just want to make the top card of your library into something that your commander can use.
Yeah, make sure that you're drawing 1 or 2 cards per turn with your commander. Another one that's really cute and it doesn't have anything to do with snow. It's Vega the Watcher.
It's from Kaldheim.
It's from Kaldheim. I suppose it is in a snowy place.
Yeah.
I wish it was a snowbird.
I don't even know what this is based off of. I've been playing a lot of God of War, so I'm like, I know where Jotunheim is. But Vega is just a cool looking owl that says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card.
So you're casting some snow stuff off the top of your library.
Does seem like that's what you're doing. It does seem like what you're doing.
For your trouble.
All right, well, we've covered some really interesting commanders, but we've got some great ones coming up, including maybe the most talked about card in the set. It's bananas.
It is
BANANANAS. But before we get back to it, stick around. But first, we have some messages from our mid-roll sponsors.
Well, hello there, friends. I'm Glunch the Bestower, everyone's favorite gift-giving flump. Ho-ho! The holidays are coming up, and for a bestower like me, that's the busy season. So many wonderful gifts to give. In fact, sometimes I get so caught up in being Glunch, I don't have time to prepare lunch. Oh no! That's why I plan ahead with Factor, the ready-to-eat meal service that preps, cooks, and delivers delicious dishes right to my enchanted grotto. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes, and they've got over 30 options each week, including nutritious, flump-friendly categories like vegan, calorie plus, or keto. Plus, it's much cheaper than dining out, so I can save my holiday treasure for my friends and opponents. So get Factor. It's way better than just eating peanut butter and jellyfish sandwiches all the time. Don't overthink it. Hoo-hoo!
Head to go.factor75.com/command60 and use code command60 to get 60% off your first box. That's code command60 at go.factor75.com/command60 to get 60% off your first box.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
So, Jimmy, you excited about the holidays?
Yeah, for the most part. But look, while this time of year is great, it does come with its own set of challenges.
Yeah, that's true. Dealing with family, work, relationships. I mean, geez, even the planning can be pretty stressful.
Yeah, and while there is no user manual for when life gets complicated, there is always the next best thing, therapy.
Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and develop healthy coping skills.
I've been seeing a therapist for years, and having someone to talk to has helped me through all sorts of difficult situations. One thing I've been learning a lot of it is about patience recently. Having a child is very taxing, and going into the holidays with the extra stress, it's important to keep an even keel.
As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists Available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable.
Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can easily switch to a new therapist anytime. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist.
Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/commandzone. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/commandzone.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Jumpstart 2022 Commanders featuring your hosts, Rachel Weeks and Jimmy Wong.
Hello. We've got a super cute one for you. It's one of my faves.
It's Kibo, Uktabi Prince. 2 in a green for a 2/2 legendary creature, Monkey Noble.
He's a monkey prince.
Because he's a prince. So a lot of text here. Let's start with the first one. It's an activate ability. You tap Kibo, and it says each player creates a colorless artifact token named Banana. With the text, you can tap it, sacrifice this artifact, and you add red or green to your mana pool, and you gain 2 life. So you eat a banana, you get a red or a green, and you can use it instantly because it's a colorless artifact token, kind of like a treasure. Mm-hmm. And then it also says, the second line is, whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's an ape or a monkey.
Yes, banana power.
So you're going to be giving them these artifacts. When they use it for mana, you get a +1/+1 counter on all your apes/monkeys. And then the last line of text, whenever Kibo attacks, defending player sacrifices an artifact. So it's like he's swooping in to grab that banana right back from you.
Monkeys famously do not like artifacts, but they do love bananas.
Now, they could have made this really underpowered by saying only bananas trigger these other abilities, but it's anytime artifacts enter the graveyard.
That's treasure
from the
tokens,
battlefield.
Friends.
Yeah, that's treasure tokens.
Crazy.
So
One of my favorite flavor things about this is that the banana token, it's both a treasure and a food.
It's a treasure food.
It's like a little food and it makes mana. So
yeah, because it does gain you 2 life.
Yeah.
Now the real question is there any food that isn't a treasure?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is bananas are monkey treasure?
Yeah,
For
you know.
sure.
It's like the whole is this a sandwich or a soup? Is any food not truly a treasure?
All food
for your belly and your mouth, yeah. Okay, so turns out there are a lot of monkeys,
like good
or
ones.
apes, I guess, because I guess they didn't want to just make them just right. There's sometimes they reduce subtypes to just one thing, but no, we have monkeys and apes.
Yeah, there are apes and monkeys in Magic, and there's good ones of both. Kogla, the Titan ape, of course, an ape, one of the best. When he enters the battlefield, it fights one target creature you don't control, and whenever it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. They hate artifacts.
So good.
And you can return a human you control to its owner's hand. Kogla gains indestructible until end of turn.
That's not happening. That's like
no
King
humans
Kong
here.
There's also Silverback Elder.
Oh, so good.
Look how buff this guy is. I'm terrified of this card.
Yeah, he's been working out a long time.
So 2 green for a 5/7. Whenever you cast a creature spell, choose one. Destroy artifact or enchantment. Or look at the top 5 cards. You can put a land card from among them on the battlefield tapped. Or gain 4 life. So I think you're going to be blowing up artifacts and enchantments. This is so good. It looks like aura shards.
It's so insane. Yeah. This is one of the more powerful cards that came out in Dominaria United, and it happens to be an ape. Another good one, a classic. It's Gorilla Shaman. He's a 1 mana 1/1 ape shaman, and he has an activated ability that says XX1, destroy target non-creature artifact with mana value X.
All right, so if you see an artifact out there you want to blow up, you basically double its mana value and add 1 to it. That's how much it costs. Instant speed Gorilla Shaman. I think this card should get played more.
It's really solid. It eats soul rings for breakfast.
Yeah, soul rings get eaten up for 3 mana.
Also, everybody's favorite little ape, it's Simeon Spirit Guide.
This new art, or is this old art? Either way,
the new one, yeah.
It's beautiful. You exile from your hand, you add red mana.
Yeah. Or in this deck, maybe you put him on the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
He could be really buff.
He could be a 6/6, 7/7, 8/8. Of course, everyone's favorite little monkey pirate, it's Ragavan Nimble Pilferer. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of text on this. If you have one, just play it.
If you don't have one, don't. It's fine.
Yeah, don't even think about it.
It's fine. There's plenty of good monkeys, including Scrounging Bandar when he enters the battlefield with 2 +1 counters on him. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may remove any number of +1 counters from Scrounging Bandar and put it onto another target creature.
Ooh,
so he collects them and moves them around.
Cool.
He's got some synergy.
It's kind of like Forbidden Ancient almost, but the monkey deck.
Yeah. I love him. He's only a 2-drop too.
Yeah, same with Yavimaya Steel Crusher and Ape Warrior. 2/2 with Enlist. When it attacks, you can tap an untapped a non-attacking creature, and then you basically give it its power. But more importantly, pay 1, sacrifice it, destroy target artifact.
They hate those artifacts.
It gets it all
really
going.
don't
You
like
really are monkeying around. All right, this next
Destroy the
category. This next category is my favorite. This is just cards with monkeys on them.
Yeah, just pictures of monkeys.
So
This next one's not a monkey, but it makes monkeys. It's Monkey Cage.
Oh no!
You gotta have it.
It's so sad.
It's a 5-mana artifact. Whenever a creature comes into play, sacrifice Monkey Cage and put onto play a number of 2/2 green ape creature tokens equal to that creature's converted mana cost. They break out of the cage. Don't worry.
Very cool. So you probably want to play this on your own turn and play like a 5-drop.
And follow it up by something big. Or if you want to play around with artifacts, like we'll talk about a little bit later, you could weld it in and out and keep putting monkeys in cages and breaking them out.
Right.
Kind of cool.
This next card, if you don't play this card in this deck, you cannot play this deck. We didn't make the rules.
You haven't earned it.
Yeah, it's Primitive Justice. Please watch the video just so you can look at this art.
It's so good. It's an Anthony S.
good.
Waters art.
Yeah, look at the hair color,
With
too.
a handsome red-headed gorilla.
Yeah, 1 in a red sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, you can pay 1 red and or 1 green any number of times. And it says destroy target artifact. For each additional 1 in a red you paid, destroyed another target artifact. And if you paid an additional 1 in the green, you destroy another target artifact and you gain a life.
Yeah.
So basically 2 mana in the different iterations of 1 in a red, 1 in the green. You can destroy a bunch of artifacts.
Yeah, 4 mana, destroy 2. 6 mana, destroy 3.
Yeah, and
Not a
if you
great
use it-
rate, but it's got a monkey on it.
It's got a monkey on it.
You gotta do it.
Play it. Now, if you are going to be weird and not play a bunch of monkeys, but you want monkeys, these colors are fine for you because you have Realm Walker and Maskwood Nexus are both just ways to make all your creatures into
Either
monkeys.
both apes and monkeys.
And
I
monkeys, yeah.
suppose.
And Realm Walker is great because you can choose ape or monkey and you cast them to the top of your library. Unfortunately, you're going to have to look through your deck and see, do I got more monkeys or more apes?
More apes, which you've really zeroed in on.
Yeah.
If you're planning on putting a bunch of apes and monkeys in the deck, I hope you are. You're gonna want a little bit of +1 counters synergy, I think, because
Yeah.
you're gonna be putting a lot of +1 counters on these things. So I think you include like a hardened scales type effects. Another one with a monkey on it.
Oh,
is
yeah.
Invigorating Hot Spring. 1 red and a green. It is an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, it has 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Modified creatures you control have haste.
That's huge.
Pretty big. And then it says remove a +1 counter from Invigorating Hot Springs, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, activate only as a sorcery and only once each turn.
Yeah, so that second part, you can just give a creature +1/+1 right then.
And haste.
And haste, yeah. It's great. It's an enchantment that enters with +1/+1 counters. But more importantly, if your monkey needs to take a little time off,
He's a little bat.
just jump
And
into
he feels better now. He
feels
can run
better.
fast.
Yeah, he's modified with the power of, I don't know, whatever spas get you. Kodama of the West Tree, modified creatures you control have trample. Also seems like a big thing in order to win in this kind of deck is you're going to have a bunch of apes just barreling over you. Mm-hmm. And then whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle.
Another one I really liked in this deck is Throne of Geth. It is a 2-mana artifact. It has an activated ability that says tap, sacrifice an artifact, proliferate. So you sacrifice a banana and all the boys get thicker.
And then they proliferate. Yeah, so even if there are no counters, the sack ability goes on, the other thing sees it, puts the counters on, then you proliferate.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty cool.
really good.
Put a monkey on the throne.
Put a monkey on the throne.
All right. So those are the monkeys.
I don't know if
There's-
we should be doing that, actually.
He's fine. He's
She's
nice.
fine. They're fine. they're gonna, I don't know.
We taught him sign language.
It's actually Andy Serkis from Return of the Apes, or whatever those movies are called.
The next section, I wanted to talk about using the bananas. If
okay.
you want to focus a little less on the monkeys and a little more on the bananas themselves,
What's Tchotchke.deck?
we were talking about this in the last episode. It's decks that want to make a lot of artifacts and use stuff when all the artifacts enter, you deal damage to everybody.
Oh, I see.
You know, it feels
Or
like
you
it's
tap in
been
and do damage, all that.
It feels like it's been a trend lately to be that a lot of decks just want to make a lot of like artifacts,
Right.
and it doesn't really matter what they are.
Okay.
And I think you could build that this way.
Okay.
So there's a version that gives everybody more artifacts, and then you punish them for it, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So if you're like, I like the idea that they have all of these bananas, let's give them more banana stuff with Descent into Avernus.
2 in red at the beginning of your upkeep is an enchantment. Put 2 descent counters on Descent into Avernus, and then each player creates X treasure tokens, and Descent of Avernus into Avernus deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of descent counters on Descent into Avernus. Wow, so many times they said descent on this card. But yeah, upkeep, 2 counters, everyone takes 2, but they also all make treasures, which is good for you because you're going to want to use those with your little prince.
Yeah.
And then the next turn does 4, but gives everyone 4 mana. This definitely makes for a fast game.
It definitely makes for a fast game, but you're playing Gruul, Gruul Smash.
Yeah, I like that. I like fast games too. Super down for it, please.
Primal Vigor is a good way to give people more of what they're already getting. If 1 or more tokens would be put onto the battlefield, twice that many of those tokens are put onto the battlefield instead.
Same with +1/+1 counters.
Same with bananas. So that's just amplifying what your commander is doing. You could also untap Kibo.
Lots of ways to do that.
1,000 Elixir is a great way to do it. There's tons of cards that do it. There's the new Mana Rock that does it as well.
Okay. Now there are ways to punish players for getting these artifacts, which seems like a good way to go. A lot of people talked about this card with the sort of proliferation of treasures everywhere. It's Viridian Revel. It's a 1/1 enchantment. Whenever an artifact is put into an opponent's graveyard from the battlefield, you may draw a card.
Whenever they eat a banana, you get a card.
Seems
may draw
very
a card.
good. I would get this altered so it would be a bunch of apes dancing around the fire.
Yeah,
because right now,
time.
Yeah,
It's too a little elfy.
Too little elfy for me.
There's a new card from Brothers War. It's Sardian Avenger. 1 and a red for a Goblin Warrior. He's a 1/1 with First Strike and Trample. When he attacks, it gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts your opponents control. Your opponents, all of them. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, Sardian Avenger deals 1 damage to that player.
Okay, that's very good.
Yeah, so every time they crack a banana or a treasure or a clue, every time they sacrifice a Mind Stone, a little ping.
Bing! I also really like Fangren Marauder. This used to be a card in a pauper deck. It's 5 and a green for a 5/5. Whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may gain 5 life.
5!
Yeah, that's
They
a
eat 2
lot.
bananas. You gain 10 life.
Yeah, that's kind of backbreaking.
It's insane.
Only monkeys could pull this off.
Yeah.
Manglehorn seems really good. 2 and a green when it enters the battlefield, destroy an artifact, but artifacts your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped.
You still give them the bananas, but you make them wait to use them. They have to wait.
That seems really good with Descent into Avernus as well. And then, like you said, there's ways to ping everyone. So Reckless Fireweaver and Genius Artillerist are both ways that allow your artifacts then to do damage to each opponent.
You're giving them a lot of bananas, but you're also making a lot yourself. So you might as well take advantage of it.
Oh, gosh. This next card is so good.
Yeah.
It's by far, I think, my favorite limited card from Brothers War.
Yeah.
It's Sarenth Steelseeker, 1 in the green for a 1/2. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you can reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put it into your hand, you can then put it into the graveyard. So it's kind of like surveilling.
It's kind of, it's like somewhere between Explore and Surveil.
Yeah.
It's super strong. Every time you make a banana, you get a little bit of card selection or even card advantage. It's very strong.
Yeah, very strong.
Jahira, Friend of the Forest is another great one. It's tokens you control have tap, add green.
Ooh.
All of your bananas, now you can just tap them like little mana rocks.
Yep.
Seems okay to me.
Gear per Ether Grid. You can tap your artifacts, deal damage. Quicksmith Genius. Artifacts come in, you get a discard and draw. There's just lots of different ways to take advantage of artifacts coming in. I think you have to be careful, though, because when I was building my Caleb and Krug deck, I was like, oh, I'm going to kill everyone with Ingenious Artillerist or Reckless Fireweaver. And then I realized that it's like, no, actually, you should find other ways of doing it because you may not be making as many artifacts or you're just buying into this one strategy too hard. So I think if you're going to choose one of these strategies, you got to go pretty hard into it.
For sure.
I'm going to kill you.
Bananas or monkeys.
Yeah, bananas or monkeys. This is Magic the Gathering. You thought Universes Beyond was bad? We're talking about bananas and monkeys over here. What's next?
So I do want to mention this because I think it's important. Giving your opponents artifacts that gain them 2 life is not
great
to be messed around with.
yeah.
You
And
do
gives
have to
them mana, by the way.
you do have to be careful with the life gain and with giving them all of these rocks. But I do like using some of the life gain to your advantage. It's a cool deck for Kavu Predator. Whenever an opponent gains life, put that many +1 counters on Kavu Predator.
And it's
it
got
has trample.
Very good.
It's a 2-mana card that does that, so you can make a big ol' Kavu.
Punishing Fire.
Cool, right?
Haven't seen this card in the commander deck ever, I don't think. 1 in a red, it's an instant, deals 2 damage to target creature or player. You're like, why would you ever play this? Because when an opponent gains life, you can pay red and you return this card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's a way to just, because you don't care about their life total with this card. You're just getting rid of their X2s. You're adding a little bit of extra damage on and really hurting people. Yeah,
I think it's great. I mean, they're going to be gaining a ton of life, and it's like you could... Anyway, I think Punishing Fire is very strong.
Yeah, and so is this Rampaging Ferocidon. So good I had to get freaking banned from Standard.
So good.
Gain a life. You can't gain a life. It's got Menace, and it says players can't gain life. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to that creature's controller.
Yeah, so it shuts off a little bit of that light gain. So if you're trying to ping them with artifacts, maybe they're not, gaining that life right back with the artifacts you've given them.
There you go. Or you just hit them with a Vandal Blast.
That too.
Yeah, they'll sack all their bananas.
They will and gain all that life anyway.
It's okay. Okay, so that's Kibo.
He's cool.
Yeah,
There's
really
a lot
cool.
to be done with Kibo, I think.
What a cute little prince. Big fan of that. Can't wait for someone to whip out a real banana.
Yeah.
Like, here's a banana token. Bop.
You do the little banana runts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's
like
right.
Little banana. Everybody
they look
gets
like a tap symbol.
They do.
Except how are you going to know when they're done?
When they're tapped,
them.
you eat them.
Yeah,
They're
you eat
gone,
them.
and you gain a little 2 life.
Yeah, that's right.
The next one is interesting, and I wanted to talk about it because I'm not sure exactly what it does. Let's find out. It's Lita, Mechanical Engineer. For 2 and a white, this is a legendary artifact creature artificer. It's a 3/3 with vigilance. It says at the beginning of your end step, untap each other artifact creature you control.
Oh my.
It also has an activated ability that says 3 and a white, tap, create a 5/5 colorless vehicle artifact token named Zeppelin with flying and crew 3.
Okay, so crewing requires you to tap creatures to put to make those vehicles into a creature. And Lita only untaps artifact creatures, other ones, by the way, not herself.
Not herself.
And then you can pay 3 and a white and tap it to make a creature that has crew on it. So it seems like on the surface, it's like, okay, you're making 5/5s, and then the creatures you can crew the thing with will get untapped. So let's say you're going to combat on my turn, I tap all my artifact creatures, cruise this. Next turn, instead of having no blockers, all my artifact creatures untap. So it makes sense in like a 1v1 atmosphere, I think.
Yeah, I think looking at it, it's got some very cool flavor, and I definitely wanted to talk about it, but I'm not sure exactly. Like, this is a lot of activations to make enough 5/5s.
Yeah, so that seems, by far it seems like the weakest part of it, unless you're generating infinite mana.
So yeah, I think it's really worth focusing on at the beginning of your end step, untap each other artifact creature you controlled. So I wanted to look at some artifact creatures that you could untap, ones with tap abilities, perhaps.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do with this by far is Koldoth the Forge Master.
Yep. Tap, sack 3 artifacts, search for an artifact, put it onto the battlefield. You can kind of just get win cons and just end the game with that one activation. Yeah,
it really doesn't get better than that. As long as you're making a lot of tchotchkes, you can sacrifice them and keep finding more stuff with Koldoth the Forge Master.
I like Scrapyard Recombiner. It's got modular 2, comes in with 2+1/+1 counters, and when it dies, you can put those counters on an artifact creature. And then you can tap to sack an artifact, search your library for a construct card, Koldoth the Forge Master, a construct. You reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So it's just a way to grab stuff like the Forge Master or Hangerback Walker,
which is also a construct.
And has a tap ability for one to tap and put a +1/+1 counter on it.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, it only untaps them once. It's kind of like Wilderness Reclamation. Yes. It's one time on your end step, but it's only artifact creatures as well. So,
so you really only get to use these twice. It's not 4 times per
turn.
Palladium Mirror is nice. It's a little soul ring that'll untap, and so it makes 4 mana instead of 2.
Steel Overseer as well. You can
also a construct.
Put the +1/+1 counter on each artifact creature you control. So I can sort of see something happening here where you go, cool, use all my abilities, go to my end step, untap, wait till the end step, use them again. So you always have blockers and things to hold up.
Another great activated ability on an artifact creature is Scarecrow. It's a 3-mana, 1/2 artifact creature Scarecrow. It says 1, sack a Scarecrow, draw a card. Sure. But also says 4, tap, return target artifact creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
Wow, you can cheat some stuff out that way.
Pretty cool. So if you can get some expensive stuff into your graveyard, you can use Scarecrow twice per turn as long as you have the mana to do so.
Okay. Gold Mirror is the mirror that taps for just a white mana, which might be valuable here.
There's a lot of these little artifact creatures that tap for 1 mana.
Yeah.
So I really like those with activated abilities that cost mana, like Scarecrow.
Yeah. And then if you use your Gold Mirror, you also have Ornithopter of Paradise and Mannequin. All are able to allow you to tap for stuff. So you just get some extra mana to then, use your Scarecrow or whatever else. Drum Bellower is a really similar card in mono white. It's just a 2 and a white, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So if you are running a lot of Scarecrows and Gold Mirrors, Mannequins, Ornithopter of Paradises, then Drum Bellower just seems like a way for you to just double up your value instead of only having them untap once.
Absolutely. So this has been a thing that Wizards has been printing a lot of, is the white artifact creature themed cards. A lot of them came out in Brothers War, and even
I think it started with Lorehold, really,
for sure.
with Strixhaven.
Yeah. So I wanted to look and see, like, is there enough support for this deck? Like, does this deck exist quite yet? And it's close, I think. Okay. Another great include is Low Shield Clockwork Scholar. For 2 and a white, it's a legendary creature, Elephant Artificer. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking artifact creatures you control. And whenever 1 or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn.
Ooh, that's good. So now you can attack, don't care about them dying, and then untap
and untap them and use all their activated abilities, perhaps.
Yeah, I like this new one, Canoptic Spider from Warhammer. It is an artifact creature spider for 5 mana with flying. Whenever another non-token artifact creature or vehicle enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. So this actually triggers with the other part of Lita's ability.
Non-tokens, unfortunately.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, if you include some other vehicles, which I could absolutely see you including in this deck, then it would be triggered on that side, though.
My bad.
Another cool one is Thopter Shop. This is new from the Brothers War Commander decks. It says whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn.
Okay.
It also has an activated ability that makes Thopters. So it makes some artifact creatures to untap with Lita.
Gotta love it. We also have Sanwell Avenger Ace. As long as an artifact creature you control is attacking, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Sanwell Avenger Ace. So this is not an artifact. It's a human pilot. Just someone that wants to cruise stuff. And then whenever Sanwell becomes tapped, exile the top 6 cards of your library. You can cast a vehicle or artifact creature spell from among them, and then you put the rest of them on the bottom of your library in a random order. So
so I think he's particularly good for crewing the Zeppelins. He's a 3/1. I can crew them. You trigger his ability, and you can get that 5/5 into the sky.
Yeah, you don't worry about untapping him as much. Because you're just drawing extra cards from that. Rebek, Architect of Ascension, protects your artifacts. Oswald Fiddlebender, this is a card you see a lot, I think, in like more high-powered CEDH level lists. This is basically allowing you to search up artifacts by sacrificing them for a new one with mana value equal to 1 plus the original. So kind of like your birthing pod. But it's in white, and it's very good. It's just 1 in the white to bend some fiddles.
Something I thought that was cute in this deck was Scare Tiller. It's a 4-mana. It's another Scarecrow. It's a 4-mana 1/4. Whenever it becomes tapped, choose 1. You may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, or return target land from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So anytime he becomes tapped, you get an opportunity to hit another land drop or to get a land back from your graveyard.
Zonks.
And he's good with vehicles. And you can untap him because he's an artifact creature. It'd be kind of fun to see Scare Tiller get a deck.
Okay, can this deck actually win? Or was this a Jumpstart commander that wanted another color to pair with it?
Yeah, it's close, it feels like. But 5/5 flyers are no joke. They're hard to block. They're tokens, so they're kind of annoying to lose a card to.
They stop being creatures after the turn they're crewed as well.
Yeah, so they don't die in board wipes as much. I think it's close. Here's some cards that I think may be able to push this over the top to steal a win. The first one's Organic Extinction. 8 white. hear me out. It has improvise. It is a sorcery. It says destroy all non-artifact creatures.
Right, and this isn't going to cost 10 mana. It's going to cost 4, 5, 6 maybe, based on how many artifacts you have out.
Yeah, so it'll cost a lot less, and it's basically a one-sided board wipe that buys you some room to attack and get you a couple of turns to get that combat damage through.
Okay, and then if you're going for the vehicle route, you have Armed and Armored, which turns all your vehicles into creatures, or Peace Walker Colossus, which does it for 1 and a white.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have creatures to tap if there's a board wipe and you're like, I don't have any pilots.
But I got a bunch of 5/5s.
You can drive them all on their own.
I like they included Mech Titan core here.
It's cool.
Yeah, so this is basically, it turns into this thing called Mech Titan, which is a 10/10, all colors, flying, vigilance, trample, lifelink, haste. But it requires you to pay 5 mana and to exile this thing called the Mech Titan core, and then 4 other artifact creatures and or vehicles, which by the way could be the ones you make with your commander.
Or your commander herself.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you don't want this thing to get bounced. That would suck. So there is a bit of a risk there, but it would be really cool to kill someone with Mech Titan.
Mech Titan, yeah, it's a 10/10 vigilance, lifelink. Like if you get hit a couple of times, it's really hard to lose a game. So it would be cool to see Mech Titan happen.
Yeah, my way of does this win the game is you put Staff of Domination in there.
Okay, good
and
start.
Then you have infinite mana combo like Basalt Monolith and Rings of Brighthearth.
Yeah, so you have infinite mana, you draw your whole deck.
Yeah, and you untap your commander, you make a billion 5/5s.
Yeah, that seems okay.
Yeah.
And then you crew them all with armed and armored.
They'll never see that coming. You're like, I just got infinite mana. They're like, cool, do you win yet? You're like, no, I got to kill you with some vehicles.
They do not have haste.
Are you done passing your turn? Okay, great. Here we go.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think in lower power pods, it's a really fun build, and there's some cool flavor with her. But
yeah, I like that. And vehicles are constantly sort of in need of help. It's like the mechanic is just not that strong and never strong enough. So they keep printing things around it, I think, to sort of bolster it up. So it should be an interesting introduction for someone to play with vehicles there. Kind of cool.
Yeah. Tell us your Lita tech. I'd be excited to hear it.
Lita tech. Next up, we have another Mizzix. Mizzix is back, but this time... she's powerful.
She's sweet. I really love this idea.
Yeah, me too. 4 and a red for a 4/5 legendary creature goblin wizard with flying, and it's got a lot of text. Here we go. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you can pay 1 and then a hybrid blue or red. So 1 blue or 1 red. If you do, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. Okay? And if the copy was a permanent spell, it gains haste, and then at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. So let's say you flip a card into exile and you can cast that card. You cast that card, sweet. Not from your hand. Now you get to choose if you want to pay 1 blue or 1 red. And if you do, you get to copy the spell if it's an instant sorcery or whatever. If it's a permanent, like an enchantment, a creature, an artifact, then it enters the battlefield gaining haste, and you get to sacrifice it at your next end step. So you get to use it once. So yeah, it's either spell or permanent.
It's pretty cool.
Well, they're all spells. It's either non-permanent or permanent.
This is another commander that I looked at and was like, okay, I think there's 2 ways that you build this, and you really don't blend them all that much.
Right, because it'll just anti-synergize, right?
Yeah, and one of them is you're in blue, you're in red, it's a Spellslinger deck.
Woohoo!
There's a lot of great ways to cast instants and sorceries from places other than your deck that we use all of the time. Torrential Gearhulk is an easy one. We love Lear, Disciple of the Drowned.
Ooh, yeah.
Lets you cast instant and sorceries as if they had flashbacks from your graveyard.
And no one can counter any spells from that point on.
Another one, but one that I think is really cool in this deck is Wand of Wonder.
There was a lot of debate around the office around this card and whether or not it was actually good or not.
I think it's actually good.
I think so too. Josh, hope you're listening, because that's 2-1 now, podcast hosts.
It's expensive to use. It doesn't go in every meta, but listen to this. So it is a Chaos Wand. It's 3 in red for an artifact. It has an activated ability that says 4, tap, roll a d20. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card.
Oof.
Then shuffles the rest of their library. You may cast up to 2 X instant and or sorcery spells from among those cards exiled this way without paying for their mana costs. And then depending on how the dice rolled, if it's 1 through 9, you can cast 1. If it's 10 through 19, you can cast 2. If you roll a 20, you can cast all 3.
Yeah, so it's basically a 50-50 shot to cast either 1 or 2 instants and or sorceries from your opponent's libraries. And here's the thing. A lot of these cards are like, they'll flip once or they'll flip an X number of cards. But this one, it goes until it hits. So
It's really sweet. And it's like Chaos Wand, if you target somebody, you can whiff, but this one gives you choices. So even if you only get to cast one spell, you get to choose between 3 spells.
right.
And it's free. So if you activate Wand of Wonder, you hit somebody's Swords to Plowshares, you copy it with Mizzix, and now you have 2. Seems pretty good to me.
Really good. Another card that's just great. It seems like there's a lot from this era right around the Baldur's Gate time is Gale, Waterdeep Prodigy. 2 in the blue. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery from your hand, you can cast up to 1 target card of the other type from your graveyard, and then it gets exiled. So this allows you to just get the chain going. Let's say you have a Ponder in hand or a Ponder in your graveyard. You cast the Brainstorm, and then you also cast the Ponder because it's an instant and or sorcery, and you split, and then boom, you have the extra trigger. You can copy it. You can just start going off because Mizzix notably does not give you a way to cast spells from other places.
You gotta figure that out for yourself.
Figure that out yourself.
Magmatic Channeler is a good one that I think kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Did it now?
It's good. It's 1 in a red. It has an activated ability that says tap, discard a card. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn.
Nice.
So you can cast it from exile. You get to choose between 2 different cards. It's a nice little looter, and you can get your flashback cards that work really well with Mizzix
Yeah, that's right.
into your graveyard.
Yeah, there's also the Unearth one. I forget the name of it from Brothers War. That's just a 1-mana artifact.
Yeah. The Mishra's Research Desk.
Research Desk, yeah. It does a similar thing.
Yeah.
And you can use it twice.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. You also have Birgi, God of Storytelling. Whenever you cast a spell, add red. You're going to be casting a lot of spells in this deck. You're going to need that extra mana to double it up.
Also, her horn allows you to cast stuff from exile. So if you can't find a way to cast stuff from exile, you can actually cast Birgi for her other side.
I would say her other side is actually, in many cases, better.
In this deck, yeah.
But just having the ability to sort of Storm Kill an Artist and give mana every time you cast stuff is very good too.
It's pretty cool.
That's why you're going to play Jessica's Will.
Yeah.
It does all of the thing. It exiles cards, it gives you mana, and it's just powerful.
Yeah. A card that I think is underplayed because it sort of is in the shadow of Jessica's Will. It's Inspired Tinkering. This is a 5-mana sorcery, and it says exile the top 3 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards.
Ooh, your next turn. Okay.
Create 3 treasure tokens.
Oh.
So it gets you 2 turns. It gets you 3 treasure tokens. If you copy this, you make 6 treasure tokens. You exile 6 cards, and you get to cast them until your next turn.
Yeah.
I think Inspired Tinkering is very strong in this deck.
Yeah, keep in mind, right? You have to look at all these spells and imagine what happens if you X2 them. 2 Jessica's Wills. Oh.
Any card that draws cards and makes mana is really strong in decks like this.
Yeah, and then you have just sort of the, all right, Mass Impulse off the top of the deck. March of Reckless Joy does this, as does a lot of spells now in red. So you can just look at those and be like, cool, I can just put a ton of mana and get a ton of choices, and then from there, pick and choose, copy whatever, and go nuts. So that is the fun time there. And then there's also a way to double up the triggers as well with Mizzix. Like you got Varen, Voice of Duality, which will allow you to use the ability again. Strionic Resonator, Harmonic Prodigy, because this is a wizard. And then Irenicus's Vile Duplication, which is my new favorite blue spell. It allows you to copy your commander, make it a flying token. Well, Mizzix is already flying, but it's not legendary.
You get to keep her. You get 2 of them.
Yeah, so you get to have 2 triggers on the sack each time. You can pay that mana in, go nuts.
We've talked about a lot of ways to cast that allow you to cast spells from other places, but I like some cards that cast themselves from other places in this deck. So that's this next category. It's we included some Foretell card, Behold the Multiverse. Exiles itself. You can cast it from exile for 2 and then copy it, scry 2 and then draw 2 twice.
Deep Analysis, absolutely love this card. You can flash it back from your graveyard for 1 in the blue, pay 3 life, and draw 2 cards.
Copy it with Mizzix, draw 4.
Brazen Borrower, it goes on an adventure and it returns an online permanent, and then you can cast it from there to just be a 3/1 flyer with flash.
Yeah. And Beacon Bolt, I think, is actually great in this deck. Beacon Bolt deals damage to target creature equal to the number of instant and or sorcery cards you own in exile and in your graveyard. So you can remove a creature, and it has Jumpstart, so you could cast it again. So this can be up to 3 removal spells.
Jeez, that's pretty nuts. Indulge in Excess. It's a sorcery split card from some set. I don't know. Was this Commander's Legends?
New Capenna.
New Capenna? Okay. So 2 in a red. Whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, you create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token that's tapped and attacking. Again, that doesn't count against your color identity. Then Aftermath, you can cast this from your graveyard. It's create a treasure token for each creature you control that deals combat damage to a player this turn.
Yeah, for 1 and a red. If you have Mizzix and a couple other creatures, if you can connect, you'll make a whole bunch of treasure tokens.
Right. You don't need
with excess.
Yeah, you might think, I need to have 5 creatures attacking. It's like, no, your commander doubles up stuff for you.
She's also a 4/5 flyer. She's huge.
Yeah. She's a big
lady.
Big lady on a cool. What is she riding there?
Some sort of drake?
It's like a cool.
It looks like Nib Mizzet almost.
Yeah, it's like a cool mechanical drake with sweet blue electricity. I wish there was less text on this card so we could see some freaking flavor text.
So we could see what she's doing.
Yeah, we could see what she's doing, what the name of her cool dragon is, maybe some backstory, something to really wrap me into the game a little more. And then, of course, the classic graveyard recursion in these decks is Mizzix's Mastery, Past in Flames. Leader, Disciple of the Drowned does the same thing. Yep. So, lots of things to do there.
Yeah, there's a ton of support for the blue and red Spellslinger version of this deck, but I do think that there's something cool about using Mizzix to copy permanents.
Yeah, that's right. Let's not forget, this card could have been fine if we just stopped there.
Yeah. Being able to make token copies of permanents doubles up your ETBs, and it's not something that we see a ton in red and blue.
No. So, definitely not copying a permanent spell out of exile. I think they just were like, you know what, Mizzix cares about stuff from exile, and yeah, sure, why not? Let's throw permanents in the mix too.
Yeah, so I included some different ways to cast some stuff from exile. Itali, Primal Storm, a classic.
Very good.
We'll cast 3 things from exile, and you can copy one if you'd like.
Yeah. Now keep in mind that you have already attacked with Itali, so you need to be able to have some sort of attack spell again to go again. But you could just be looking for sweet ETBs from your opponents.
Yeah.
Like if you flip over an Eternal Witness and you can copy that, get 2 things back right. There's just so many different things you can do here.
It's pretty cool. Lelia exile stuff on an attack trigger, which is nice. One that I really love is Iruth, Tormented Prophet. 1 blue and a red. If you would draw a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library instead. You may play those cards this turn.
Yeah, so that's great. You could just play this and just every time you draw, you're drawing 2 essentially.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to the new Urabrask as well. It just gives you that extra exile draw.
Yeah, Reality Chip lets you play stuff off the top of your library. That's not your hand.
That's
you can copy stuff coming that way as well.
Stolen Strategy. Great way to steal other people's sweet permanents. Again, you're in mono. Oh, you're not. You're in blue-red here. I keep forgetting what the hybrid mana costs in there.
There's a pretty funny deck that steals permanents from your opponents and makes copies of them, right? Like we've got Stolen Strategy and Itali. Share the Spoils is a cool one that does this as well.
That's right, yeah.
Red does love to steal spells from your opponents. Another very powerful one that I think is a very cool build around is Emry, Lurker of the Lock.
Oh, Emry's just so good.
Emry lets you cast artifacts from your graveyard, and Mizzix lets you copy them. So if you copy a bauble, you get 2 baubles. You can sacrifice the token one, draw some cards.
Sacrifice both of them, draw some cards.
Yeah, I would love to see an artifact build of Mizzix.
Yeah, that's cool because you do get the original copy out with Emry that allows you to cast it, and then you make an extra copy on top. So you just have tons more to work with there.
Yeah. I wanted to look at some permanents that also cast themselves from places other than your hand, but there's not as many especially in blue and red. Notably, Disturb will do it.
Oh, okay, this is from Midnight Moon.
Midnight Hunt.
Midnight Hunt. Howling Moon. Yeah, these have Disturb. You can cast it from your graveyard, transform for its Disturb cost.
Yeah, so you could copy the backside of Malevolent Hermit with Mizzix or
Mirror Hall Mimic. This seems good. It's a clone for 3 in the blue, and then Disturb for 3 blue, and it becomes an enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted creature, except it's a spirit.
Yeah, so it will create more and more token copies, and you'll have 2 of them, which seems pretty good.
Yeah, seems very good.
Also, the way that Mizzix is worded is if you end the turn, you can keep the token copies.
Hey, it's like Obeka, Brute Chronologist, and all those cards as well. So.
Yeah, so this is, if you're building around the permanent version of Mizzix, I would love to see a Sundial of the Infinite in this deck.
Yep.
I also think Days Undoing would be a cool include.
Oh, that is really cool. Now, keep in mind if you put a bunch of cards that care about being in the graveyard, it's a little sad because you're going to shuffle it in, but that does end the turn and you get a fresh 7.
Yeah, so if you make a cool token, you're like, all right, I made a token I like, I want to keep it, I'm going to get a fresh 7 and end the turn, keep my token. Is cool.
Now, this theme of casting somewhere from anywhere except from your hand, this has also been something that Wizards is building some support for. Warhammer has Keeper of Secrets that says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, it does damage equal to its spell's mana value to target opponent. So
yeah, make a copy of this and then cast another spell. Now you're cooking.
Now you're cooking. And then Passionate Archaeologist, it's an enchantment background, but you can just play this in any deck and it'll still have its abilities happen. Commander creatures you control have, whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So very similar to Keeper of Secrets, but just 1 and a red to do it instead.
Yeah, only a 2 mana. You just have to have Mizzix in play, which you're going to want anyway.
Yep.
The Lost and the Damned is another Warhammer card. It says whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control from anywhere other than your hand, or you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, create a 3/3 red spawn creature token.
Cool.
This is a cool thing to make a token copy of and have 2 of them. Every time you cast a spell or play a land from exile, you make 2 3/3s. That
making
seems okay.
a bunch. Wild Magic Sorcerer, so very good. 3 in a red. The first spell you cast from exile this turn, each turn has Cascade. So that spell also gets cast from a place that's not your hand, so you could copy that up.
Yep.
I think this deck just needs a lot of mana.
Oh my gosh.
Regardless of which
much.
direction you take. So yeah, you have to be playing like a Mana Geyser. You're going to be playing your Jessica's Will, so you can pop off with your Underworld Breach or whatever. A card that I really like is Reality Spasm. It's X blue for an instant. You can choose one, tap X target permanent or untap X target permanents. So if you have a bunch of mana rocks, you're able to double up this spell if you can somehow find a way to cast it from somewhere else. And now you're going to untap just oodles of stuff.
And if you copy it, gross.
Yeah,
You untap
exactly.
everything twice.
Storm Kill an Artist, blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes.
Blue-red storm stuff.
Storm stuff.
Believe it or not, I don't think Mizzix is the most powerful card in Jumpstart 2022. This
Wild.
next card is for me.
And it's mono white.
Mono white, and
You're
it's a
just
rabbit.
saying this because... Oh, yeah, it is a rabbit.
It's a rabbit.
You know, on one episode, I was like, have they even ever made rabbit cards before? And they've definitely made plenty of rabbit cards, including a card that literally was just a rabbit, a Zodiac rabbit.
I love the Zodiacs.
But now we have Preston, the Vanisher.
Preston the Vanisher is for 3 and a white is a 2/5 legendary creature rabbit wizard. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't cast, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 0/1 white illusion. There's more. 1 and a white. Sacrifice 5 illusions. Exile target non-land permanent.
It's an illusion, Michael.
Oh my god. So this card is busted.
Yeah, so fortunately, I'm just glad that the second ability wasn't, hey, flicker something. It very easily could have just been that.
It's crazy already as it is. So something that white is very good at is making creatures enter the battlefield and not casting
Not being
them.
cast, that's right.
We're going to talk about Blink once again. This is a great spot for Teleportation Circle.
Blink twice if we're talking too much about Blink.
Yeah. Ephemerate, one of the best Blink
So
spells
good,
ever created. Of course, Conjurer's Closet.
Yep.
All of
Charming
these, will blink the creatures we've talked about before, like your Skyclave Apparitions, your Charming Princes.
Yeah, and there are just, this is the deck that when it's like, all right, then this is going to come back and it's going to create a copy and then I'm going to have this do that to this. And everyone just watches and goes, oh man, I think we're losing.
It's white game action tribal.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about this because this is a funny little loop. So Preston can make a very slow infinite combo with Charming Prince.
Preston.
He's a good boy.
Tell me more about Preston.
So if you blink Charming Prince, if you, let's say you have like, I don't know, Preston and Ephemerate and Charming Prince.
Sure.
You Ephemerate Charming Prince. He enters the battlefield. You make a 0/1 white illusion of Charming Prince.
Now you have 2 triggers of Charming Prince on the battle.
So now you use the token, the illusion Charming Prince, to blink the original Charming Prince.
Aha.
And
The token, and then the original Charming Prince can gain
do
you 3
whatever.
life, scry 2, or
Scry
something
2,
else.
And then he leaves. And on the next end step, he comes back.
How charming.
He makes another illusion, which blinks him. So if you have Preston and Charming Prince, you can basically make a prince every turn.
Yeah, that's great. And you have 2 triggers. As long as the token copy points at the original prince, you're going to get that back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really good.
And you could use the other Charming Prince to blink something else, like a Skyclave Apparition.
Oh, so when this comes back now you're exiling 2 permanents with 2 Skyclave apparitions, thanks to Preston.
Ugh.
Preston sounds like a bully.
Preston's rude. I mean, you could just blink like a super cute Spirited Companion.
Or
and draw a card.
2 cards.
Two cards.
Wall
because
of
you make
Omens.
an illusion copy.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man, I didn't realize how good this is.
So White Plume Adventurer, I think, is a great include in this card. You do have to mess with the initiative, but the initiative
This
is
just get banned in Pauper, or no, get banned in like Legacy or something.
White Plume Adventurer? I'm not sure.
Some of the initiative cards got banned.
Oh, in Pauper, yeah.
Pauper, yeah.
This is rare, but they definitely had to ban initiative because it is powerful. Also, if you finish the initiative, you get a creature from your deck. And you don't cast it.
And then you get another copy with Preston.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
So White Plume Adventurer will come back in and you'll take the initiative again. You'll just move down that track so quickly.
Yeah, I think White Plume Adventurer is a cool include. Also, Ranger Captain of Eos. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, it comes into the battlefield. You can find a creature with CMC 1 or less, put it in your hand and shuffle. And just do that over and over and over again. Notably, it also has the game-winning ability of you sacrifice the Ranger Captain and your opponents can't cast non-creature spells this turn. You could make so many copies of Ranger Captain that you're just going each turn upkeep, sacrifice. Yeah.
You're never casting a non-creature spell again.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm sure you all predicted, there is some combo potential.
No way.
Preston, it breaks Felidar Guardian. Wouldn't you believe it?
Wow, the kitty cat.
If you blink Felidar Guardian enters, makes a token copy. The token copy blinks Felidar Guardian, exiles, make another one.
So this is instantaneous blink. You don't have to wait till an end step. So you basically get infinite Felidar Guardians on the battlefield.
Yeah, infinite blinks, infinite 0/1s, and the free Felidar Guardian that's not blinking anything, that could blink lands. So it's also infinite mana.
Oh, that's right.
It's infinite ETBs on some other creature.
They shouldn't have made this card.
Felidar Guardian.
The fact that it says exile another target permanent doesn't say non-land. So yeah, that is very powerful.
You can blink lands or rocks or any other creature. A paperclip, I think, will do to close this loop and win. It also goes infinite with Fiend Hunter, another card that they have since fixed. This one's a little...
That's right. The wording on this, pay attention. So basically the way it works, there's 2 lines of text here, and because the lines of text are separated, you're allowed to do this.
Yes.
Fiend Hunter enters the battlefield, you may exile another target creature. That is a single trigger that goes on the stack.
Yes.
And then it says when Fiend Hunter leaves the battlefield, that card that it exiled returns to the battlefield. However, if you're able to exile something and then get rid of the Fiend Hunter before that exile trigger resolves, then by the time your Fiend Hunter leaves, it's like, well, there was no card exiled under it, but the original exile trigger is still there, still going to get rid of something permanently.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. Fiend Hunter comes in with the token copy. The Fiend Hunter is like, get rid of Rachel's commander. Or no, get rid of anything.
Anything.
Right? And that trigger's on the stack. Hasn't resolved yet. Your second one is going to trigger and target the original Fiend Hunter. And then when that resolves, the Fiend Hunter is going to go away. But the original Fiend Hunter trigger is still there, still going to exile something.
That's it.
And then the next trigger is going to happen. It's like, wait a minute, but there's nothing exiled under it. So it just goes away.
And now with your sack outlet, you sacrifice the token one.
Yeah.
Your original comes back. And you make a token one.
And now you can get rid of
now you
every
have the loop. We've done
single creature on the battlefield.
Golly. Blah.
Yeah. That's why they fixed it, because of the way it works. They didn't think people would be doing such shenanigans.
There's one more shenanigan I want to talk about because it's too fun. It's Karmic Guide.
Requires a sack outlet as well.
You do need a sack outlet.
All right, so Karmic Guide enters the battlefield. It says, when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So if you can sacrifice the original one while the token target is on the stack, you can target the original one
because it goes back
to bring back the Karmic Guide, which brings back something else.
Yeah.
And now you make a token copy of that.
The key being you have 2 enter the battlefield abilities, and the token copy can just target the original because you're able to sacrifice it, put in the graveyard, and by the time it goes off, it sees it, Karmic Guide brings something back over and over and over again. Because you're always getting that extra one.
You can reanimate your entire graveyard, basically. Forever.
Okay. All right. We freaking did it.
There's the combo potential. There's lots of ways to win this way. Blasting Station is a good way. Altar of the Brood is a good way. Any number of sack outlets,
Altar
any
of Dementia,
blink targets. You can put the pieces together from there.
And if you don't understand how the interaction works, don't tell us.
Yeah,
I'm just
somebody can really write
somebody
that down
else will help you explain a little bit more. The idea being, again, just you're able to sacrifice at instant speed, and as a result, you can just sort of target things that shouldn't be targeted, or get rid of things, get around text, all that good stuff.
So I think we can agree that the blink version of Preston is going to be a bit crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very powerful.
The way
and
this deck plays is, you play Preston, all of a sudden, permanents and creatures your opponents control start disappearing into nothingness.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely one way to build Preston, but I wanted to see if there's like a cool Reanimator build with him, because that's another good way that white can make creatures enter without casting them.
Right.
And there is some cool support that they've come up with lately. Storm of Souls is a cool one. It's a 4 white for a sorcery. It says return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit with flying in addition to its other types. Exile Storm of Souls. So it reanimates your whole graveyard in mixed little spirits, and then you get copies of all of them.
Yikes!
When it enters, which seems pretty fun.
That is actually very fun. Late to dinner. I like this. 3 in the white sorcery. I remember losing to this in Modern Horizons a lot. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and you make a food token.
Yep, it's a good way to make
just 4 mana
stuff enter the battlefield and get 2 of them. We talked about it before. Emeria Shepherd is a great way to make cards enter the battlefield.
You're in mono white, so you're definitely going to get those plains triggers as well.
For sure.
Same goes for Emeria the Sky Ruin. Elspeth Conquers Death also brings stuff back from the graveyard.
And a new one, Ascend to Avernus. From Avernus. Ascend from the red one goes down, the white one comes up. White for X. Return all creature and planeswalker cards with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Ascend from Avernus.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like another
6 mana, basically bring everything back if you got a bunch of 3 drops.
And make copies of all of them. And I was like, all right, what do you do with that? A lot of the big white stuff is legendary, but what are the cool things that you can copy with Preston?
Preston, yeah. Oppressive, that Preston. Yeah, you can,
rude boy.
You can bring back a Mirror Battlesphere like this, and you get 2 copies, and then you're going to get a 0/1 version that also makes 4 1/1 colorless Mirror artifact creature tokens, instant board state.
Seems pretty good. You can have a pair of Platinum Angels, one big, one small.
Yeah, they had to get rid of both if they want to win the game.
Angel of the Ruins is back and
it's so good. Yeah, it's because you're playing cycling it into your graveyard. Now you're going to exile 4 artifacts and or enchantments when it comes in.
That's
gonna pretty much on almost any board state just set you permanently ahead.
That takes care of a ton of problems and really takes a chip into other people's plans.
Ooh, this one's good. Sarah's Emissary. 4 white creature. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. You and creatures you control have protection from the chosen card type.
Yep. So first one comes in, it names creatures. Second one comes in, names instants. Maybe you've got an anointed procession and you name sorceries. Get the whole gamut.
Do the whole thing.
Seems okay. This one I would really love to see get into a deck. It's Exquisite Archangel. It is a 7 mana angel with flying. It says if you would lose the game, instead exile Exquisite Archangel and your life total becomes equal to your starting life total.
Rough. There's an angel that does this as well, but that is just rough.
And there's 2 of them.
Yeah. They're like, okay, cool, kill 1. Nope. Oh, sorry, I'm going to blink another thing now, too, because I can just do it all.
I'm going to blink it and make another one. I'm going to blink it and make another one.
Yeah. Wormcoil Engine. All right, finally.
A classic. My favorite thing about Wormcoil Engine is it's a 0/1, and then when it dies, it splits into 2 3/3.
Yeah. It's like coming from the spirit realm. That's great. Yeah, because, that's very cool. And this last one I haven't seen ever. It's Breathkeeper Seraph. 4 white 4/4 with Soulbound. So when another creature enters the battlefield, if it's unpaired, you can Soulbound it with it. And as long as it's paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, when this creature dies, you can return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. So brings it back.
Is this infinite with a sack outlet?
Maybe. Who knows?
You tell us in the comments.
It's a slow one because it's at the beginning of an
It comes back at the end of the event step. Great.
But
lots of combos with Preston.
Lots of combos. There's a lot you can do with Preston. Obviously, the instant win on the spot stuff is all there, but it's also just, it's not even like, it doesn't even seem that much fun to play against if all your stuff is just getting blasted and removed and exiled all the time.
They keep making these adorable commanders that are so broken. They're like, it's just a little wabbit.
He's putting a wabbit out of a hat and goodbye to your whole board state. That's rough.
It's so
imagine going home and you're like, your friends are like, hey man, how was your magic night? You play a lot of cool games? Or like, I just got beat to a pulp by a rabbit named Preston.
Yeah, it's very Monty Python. White rabbit with red eyes. That's the altar we need on Preston.
Exactly. They're chucking the holy hand grenade, or I guess in this case it's the whichever one from Fortnite they have. Okay. All right, so let's quickly break down what our favorite commander is from Jumpstart 2022, and then we're also going to talk about the most powerful commander. My favorite, I think, has to be Mizzix.
That's so sweet.
I'm a blue-red player at heart, and there's just so much in that I really like. I also did like the mono-red one as well. I forgot the name already.
Auntie Blight.
Auntie Blight, that's right. That seems really interesting, and if I didn't have 4 mono-red decks, I would build it.
You need another.
I don't know about that.
Are you doing permanence or spellslinger with?
I think I would do permanence.
Yeah?
'Cause I have a Spellslinger's deck. I've got my Magnus the red one, and spell slinging, it's fun, but after you do it like 6 or 7 times, you're like, okay, let's try and go somewhere else.
This is a cool new opportunity. Okay, what if you copy a Gilded Drake?
Ew. That's gross.
Does that work?
Yeah, you would get a copy of it.
You steal 2 things? That seems cool. All right.
And you don't care if the Gilded Drake leaves the battlefield either.
Gross.
What if you copy a Perplexing Chimera? Don't do that.
I hate it. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that, guys.
Don't do that.
My favorite commander from Jumpstart 22, it's gotta be Kibo. I mean, he's so fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's really an example of them having a great time and making a card that's like, well, go back through Magic's history and find some weird old cards with monkeys on them and put them in a deck. That's exactly how I want to play commander, and I was really excited to see him print.
Yeah, very much so. Now let's talk about our most powerful commander from Jumpstart 2022. We actually agreed on this one. It's pretty obvious. It is going to be our good old rabbit friend, Preston.
Vanisher. Your stuff is vanishing, but so is your opponent's.
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, you have the whole thing where it's 1 in the white and sacrifice 5 illusions.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. If you make so you make infinite Felidar, and then you have all of your infinite mana. Now you can exile to all non-land permanents forever, infinitely.
Yeah.
That seems fun.
That's not fun.
I think it's fun.
What are you talking about?
It's a rabbit.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like it's like cute rabbit bounces up to you and it's like, oop, got your car. And it's like, whoa. Like, I put my house in your hat. Your house in my hat. And it's like, oh no, Preston, you're ruining my life.
Preston.
Like, make sure to tip at the end of the performance. I do this for kids' birthday parties.
I love that he's a magician.
Yeah. Just like a cheap magician that in his bag of tricks just has people's livelihoods.
All right.
Okay, to the listeners. So what do you think of the Jumpstart 2022 commanders that we did talk about? There are some that we didn't. If you think we should have covered them, let us know in the comments, and maybe we can have a discussion down there so someone else looking for those commanders can find it there. And let us know if you're planning on building any of them. I would love to face down against the Kibo deck.
Yeah.
I want to see some monkeys and some bananas.
And if you know how Preston and Fiend Hunter works with a sack outlet, let us know in the comments below. We've done our best.
In 20 words or less, explain the Fiend Hunter infinite combo. And of course, if you want to buy Fiend Hunter and a sack outlet and any of these commanders, head on over to cardkingdom.com/command. That's it. Just type in the affiliate code and you're smack dab in the middle of their website. You can buy sealed products, singles, and more. Card Kingdom also has just an amazing storefront. Have you ever been to Card Kingdom store?
I have.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And obviously, they have great customer service. They have a huge inventory. You can get the cards you want all in one shipment to your doorstep and build the deck you want of your dreams just like that, right then and there, all done. Except you got to put in some sleeves. So once you're done at cardkingdom.com/command, go to ultrapro.com/command or just buy some UltraPro products. We trust UltraPro quite a bit. Josh and I have used their satin towers to travel everywhere with, their deck boxes and all that stuff. And they've got tons of colors. That's what I really like. You can choose a nice red deck box for your red deck and a blue one for your blue one. And you can mix and match even the satin towers. We've seen some people do that, like our good friend Kess Wiley, takes the 2 colors of the deck and will slap them together so he knows instantly he's looking at a red-white deck or whatever.
Very cool.
Very cute, yeah. So ultrapro.com/command, they got tons of deals all the time. Okay, no end step. This is a set review. It was very long. So let's just go straight to the cleanup step, Rachel.
Yeah.
Where we get to thank our big, amazing team here at the Command Zone. So with one single breath, Damon Lenz, Arthur Metacraft. I don't know, you don't have to take a breath, but you can too. Lady Danger, Manson Lund, Craig Blanchett, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, Patrick Nan, Jordan Bridgen, Sam Walder, Gaurav Gladi, Jamie Block, Mitch Trafford, Evan Limburger, Gabriel Bozos, Megan Yip, Eric Lem, Josh Lee Kwai, and Rachel Weeks, everybody! Woo-hoo!
Special shout out to Jeffrey Palmer for the Living Card animations.
Thanks,
Check
Jeffrey.
him out on Living Cards, MTG on Twitter.
Appreciate
Thanks, guys.
it. Appreciate it all. Go get a jump start on building these decks. We hope to see them out in the wild soon. And until then, Rachel, I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys.
Peace out.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.